Hi, I'm Chuck Dorset for Weaver Leather Craft Supply. With me, Angie Mullet, co-worker, good friend, and phenomenal leather artist. We're going to make a courier pouch. Now, this is her design with a cutout that's going to show right through to a beautiful purple liner. So, Angie, where's the first place we're going to start?
As always, the pattern is the most important part of your project, so let's start with the pattern.
Nice.
All right, the material I like to use for patterns is this plastic sheet, commonly used for bag stiffener. I like it because it's transparent, it's durable, has a nice straight edge, and it's easy to cut.
Boy, that is a nice pattern material. Very durable. I like the feel.
All right, so now we need to go ahead and mark our outside measurements for the pattern. Our pattern is going to be 39 by 17, so let's go ahead and mark and cut that. And there's our last cut for the outside measurements on our pattern. Now we want to go ahead and measure for our gussets. Lay the straight edge here. Our first mark is going to be at 9 inches for our front flap.
Which is just perfect. This is a design Angie has created with a flower. Now this is going to cut through our face leather into our liner, and that is going to be gorgeous. But that is just almost a perfect shape for that 9-inch panel.
Then we're going to mark for our 3-inch gusset, our 12-inch for our back panel, another 3-inch gusset, and then the remainder is 12 inches for our front inside panel. We're going to go ahead and drop the square in and extend these lines. And there's the last mark for our gusset. Now Chuck's going to show you how to measure for our gussets.
Now our main gusset size, 3 inches by 12 inches, but here's the thing, we're going to lace these in. So I'm going to need 3/4 of an inch on either side and then 3/4 inch on one side of my width. So that's going to bring us from 3 inches to 4.5 and from 12 inches to 12 3/4 of an inch. So let's go ahead and mark and cut that. Now I've got my lines marked. Let's start with our bottom tab. I'm going to make a mark right in the center. We're going to use increments of 1/2 of an inch for our lace holes. So starting right in the center, we'll come out and mark half each side, half further out, gives us 5 holes there. Let's leave that where that is. Now, working down, working from the top, again, we're going to drop in 1/2 of an inch from the top, both sides, and then I'm going to add in, again, marks at increments of 1/2 of an inch all the way down. Nice, so I have my gusset marked. Now, 3/4 inch tabs, so I've split those right in the middle at 3/8 of an inch, working in 1/2 inch increments starting at the top of the gusset, and again on my bottom tab starting in the center, we have 5 holes there. Now I'm going to turn this over to Angie. She's going to take this pattern and mark our main body from that.
All right, I'm going to take this pattern. What I'm going to do is go ahead and make a 3/8 inch line on both sides of the panel. And then I'm going to mark my lace holes at 1/2 inch starting at the top here. All right, and there's the last mark for the lace holes. I used the gusset pattern to mark all of these holes, which works perfectly because all of my holes will match up nicely on both. And if you'll look, you'll see I don't have any lace hole marks up here because this is our flap and we're not going to be lacing this. Now we're ready to go ahead and cut some leather.
All right, so cutting the leather. Now, Angie's going to mark our patterns, and we've got a tutorial on keeping good, clean, well-marked patterns, but she's also chosen some gorgeous leather. This is a 5 to 6 ounce chrome oil in a bark brown, a distressed. It is gorgeous. All right, so that's our exterior leather, but here's the best part. Beautiful, rich purple suede. Now, this is going to be our liner, but also because we're going to cut a design into our face leather, this is actually going to be part of the design as well. So, what we're going to do, we're going to clean up our table here, we're going to lay some leather out and start cutting our pattern. Now, we've got our pattern laid out, nice and efficient, but here's the thing. We want to cut as efficiently as possible, but again, within reason. Now, Angie's checking down there because we're going to have a beautiful natural edge, which is perfect on this leather. Secondly, I'm going to mark and cut. She's going to drop in this beautiful pattern that she's created on the flap. So, going to mark with my awl, mark and cut my main body. I'm going to drop in a gusset over here to use that leather wisely. Second gusset is going to come out right there, and this will be a beautiful piece. After that, We're going to get Angie to cut our liner. We're going to glue that together, and we are virtually there. Nice. Now, cut my gussets. We've got 2 gussets for us. We've got a beautiful body cut out, ready to go, again with that natural edge on one end. Now, I'm going to pass this over to Angie. She is going to drop in her design, punch and cut that, and we will be ready to line.
All right, there's the pattern. Now, if you'll notice, I marked the center of my pattern. We want to get this as close to the center as on the flap as we can. Doesn't have to be exact, but close is good. And looks good. So now we're going to go ahead and mark our oblongs and round holes. And we're done. Looks beautiful. Now we're going to go ahead and start punching our oblongs and round holes. All right, and there's the last hole punched on that. Now we're ready to do the flower. We'll line this back up to mark our flower, and then I'll show you a cool little trick I found to do these flowers without cutting them entirely by hand. So we'll go ahead and mark these. All right, we've got that pattern marked. Now we're ready to punch the petals out. So what I use for the main full petals is a 3/8 inch English point punch. And I'll do each end. And that leaves a little bit attached here, so I'm going to take my round knife and just finish cutting that. And there's the last piece cut out. Let's grab a piece of the liner just to see what it's going to look like. Wow, that looks really nice. It pops. Looks amazing. Speaking of liner, let's go ahead and cut the liner.
Nice. So let's move into laying in a liner, and this is relatively easy. A couple of tricks to it. First off, let's take our leather, this gorgeous purple suede that Angie has chosen for this project. We're going to lay this out. Now, we're going to put our foot stamp, or the footage for the hide, up, because this is the back side of the hide. Secondly, we're going to lay in our main pattern piece. Now, here are the tricks with gluing. First off, I'm going to overcut my lining, which means Angie's going to drop in a line 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch outside of the main body. It's going to cure 2 problems. First off, I don't have to worry about getting my glue right to an edge. Secondly, though, and the bigger problem is with contact cement, we're going to have glue on both sides. When we adhere those together, it's stuck. You get one shot with contact cement. Here's the problem. I don't want to have to hit a corner or an edge. So I have ample room to lay my project in, glued. Then we'll use the project itself for the straight edge. We're going to actually cut around the project. It's going to look just like it was die cut. Same thing on our gussets. So we're going to draw this in, and then we'll move towards gluing. Now, we've got our liner cut, ready to go. We've overcut to knock out all of the problems that we spoke about. Now, we're going to use an S18. This is a great contact cement. Now, with the contact cement, though, we're going to need to apply glue to both pieces that we will glue together. But here's a great thing about leather. With those 2 pieces coming together with contact cement, they're going to react as one piece of leather. And again, we've overcut, so we've got no issues. Now, to apply the glue, this is a great tool. It's a glue can. And all I have to do is simply squeeze, and I can apply glue to the smaller panels. Now, say the smaller panels, because when we jump up to this big piece, to our main body, we're going to have to apply glue to about 8 square feet of leather. But Angie has a great trick for just that.
For our larger panels, I like to use a paint roller and a paint tray to apply the glue. With this liner, we cut it a little bit short from the raw edge. We didn't want to go all the way to the raw edge because it'd make it difficult to trim that raw edge. So we just cut it a few inches short. And remember, we extended this liner past our actual panel for our pattern. And we will apply the glue just to close to the edge, not all the way to the edge. We don't have to worry about getting glue on our table or getting glue on our project. So let's go ahead and glue this.
Nice. So now we've laid in our liner and we've trimmed that right to our edge using the gusset and the main body as our straight edge. But isn't that a gorgeous combination with that purple liner? All right, second thing I've done, I punched 2 holes. Now this is going to be for our strap. Center line on my gusset, both gussets, 2 inches down, and then a 2-inch spread.
Now we're going to take our pattern. To save time, we went ahead and marked and punched holes in our pattern so that this step's a little bit easier. We're going to lay our pattern on top of our gusset, and we're going to take a scratch awl and we're going to mark all the lace holes and punch them.
Nice, and that's our last hole punch. Now, we're going to lace this closed. To save a little time, we've cut our own lace, but here's the great thing. We've cut the lace out of our face leather. It's going to be a perfect match. Now, I've cut that about 3/16 of an inch wide, but at the same time, we've got a 12-inch depth, and I need 3 times my length. So these are cut at about 36, maybe 38 inches. So let's lace this together.
Okay, we're going to start lacing at the bottom of the gusset. We're going to take one of our pieces of 36-inch lace, cut it in half, and we'll put a knot on the end of it, and we'll start lacing at the bottom. We'll leave the knot exposed to give it a nice rustic look. And then we'll finish it off by putting a knot on the bottom side and leave the remainder of the lace hang for, again, the nice rustic look and feel to this bag. And then we'll come to the side here and we'll bend this corner over. That's the reason we cut this out, to bend this corner over and line up the side so it sets together nicely. And once we have that lacing done, we'll go to the other side and start at the bottom with the other gusset.
Now, while Angie is lacing up the last of our project, I'm going to take one of our Crazy Horse belt blanks, which is going to be a perfect addition to our pouch because it's a very rustic strap. So let's take an antique nickel buckle, again keeping in the theme with that antique. I'm going to let the tongue fall through the oblong. Very nice. Now let's let that hang off of our table, and I'll show you why here in just a second. Now we're going to close this with Chicago screws. And it's best to add just a little dab of glue into these to keep them from working out. So two female from the front. We're going to flip that over. Now, I'm going to let this hang off of my table because that allows that loop room to turn, and it makes it very easy for me to find the Chicago screw. And secure those two in with my screwdriver. Very nice. Now, at the other end of this billet, I've got my 2 holes, 2-inch spread, so that's going to fit perfectly on my gusset. Now, for the tongue side, again, 2-inch spread, and I've dropped in my sizing holes, 5 holes, 1.5 inch apart. But also, too, you'll notice we've just made an angular cut on this, again, keeping this very rustic. So these are ready to attach to our pouch. Now, already that is just beautiful. All right. Last thing we need to do, we're going to connect our straps. So with this, all I have to do is drop in 2 female Chicago screws from the outside. I've got my holes pre-punched in my gusset. I'm going to drop these in, put the male pieces in, and our bag is complete. Well, that is just beautiful. What a great project. Is that not a beautiful courier bag? Angie's designed the cutouts with that gorgeous purple liner behind it. What a beautiful project.
I think it turned out great. It was a fun project to work on, a little time consuming, but it looks beautiful.
And with closures, we've left a natural edge there, so it's simply a flap. But the last thing you can always add to your project, closures, and sky is the limit on those. Well, again, I've had a great time working with Angie. Good luck with your projects.